Sveiki, mėly parakomanai, su jumis vėl aš Alminas Sinevičius ir jūs žiūrite Lock and Loaded Patrulio Bazę. Šiandien pakalbėsime apie ES ir Europos karo pramonę, industriją ir kadangi mūsų svečiai yra iš užsienio valstybių, mes kalbėsime angliškai. So today our topic is European defense industries, too slow or too expensive? So I present for our followers our three guests that we have here. First, sitting in the middle, Kyrre Lohne, Vice President, Government Relations and Business Development from Kongsberg. Then we have Peter Nygren, Director, Business Development, BAE Systems Hägglunds. And third guest is Harri Heinonen, Key Account Director, Defense Industry Company Patria.
Yes.
Okay, welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And I will start with first question. So how would you describe dynamics of European defense industries after 2022? And we all know why this year is in the question. So who's starting? Peter, maybe you?
Well, it is a big change. If we go back 10, 15 years ago, the market was quite slow, and we of course had to adapt to that, not knowing exactly when the next order would come in. Then from Hägglunds' point of view, we were quite successful in 2020 and 2021. So we started a ramp up in order to be able to meet the demand. But then after 2022, it's increased even more. And we now have a number of customers lining up asking for fast deliveries, which of course is a challenge if you come from the point of departure when we had a new project coming in every second year. Now we have multiple projects coming in at the same time. So it is of course challenging, but we've prepared, we've ramped up, we've increased our production capacity 500%.
500%?
Using the network of our partners across Europe, because we don't grow organically in the city of Örnsköldsvik where we are located. So we use partners that we've been working with for many years. That's why we are able to come up to 500% increase.
You alluded to something very important. There is a before and an after situation. Since at the end of the Cold War until 2022, the Western defense industry was dramatically reduced capacity-wise because of there was no need for volume, there was no need for speed. There was maybe the hunt for the golden solutions, not the mass-produced solutions. So the industries was optimized more for that type of business. And now after 2022, we see that the large industries might not be rigged properly to actually expand into mass production. And it's very interesting to see that there are new companies coming, maybe in the drone area, for example, new startups that can accommodate mass production of cheaper, simpler solutions, if I might say, where the traditional old-timer industries, they focus on what they are good at and their solutions, so to speak. So in our situation, we started experiencing a huge demand almost 10 years ago. So we started a lot of investments already 10 years ago, which we capitalize on now, and we can expand what we have started on. But it's interesting to see that the big providers, they might not be rigged for mass. It will take time to change them, maybe slower than these newer, smaller companies, more agile companies.
In Lithuania, we also have a very jump of the drone companies, little startups, like you said. Yeah.
But it's also important to understand that when you do an investment, it is to cope with the situation right now, but it needs to be affordable in the future as well. So we can't dimension a production at the highest level and expect that to last for 10, 15, 20 years. So we know it will come down. So you need to have a balance there so you can survive in the future. Yeah.
From Patria's point of view, I'm speaking about the Patria land products, which are the wheeled armored vehicles, 6x6 vehicles and 8x8 vehicles. In Patria, we have had a little bit different way of producing the vehicles also in the past, and we are doing the same way today and also in the future, and we are talking about technology transfer. So when we get an order, we'll start with the pre-series in Hämeenlinna in Finland, and we are teaching the customer mechanics to build those vehicles. And then we are transferring the technology of the production in the customer country. That's the way how we have done, for example, in Poland, and we are doing in Japan at the moment. So the war in Ukraine actually didn't cause too much issues for our production, because we have checked and ensured our supplier network and subcontractors already before the war started in Ukraine. Okay. We started and we opened a new factory in Latvia, in Valmiera, for the 6x6 vehicles, and we doubled our capability to product the vehicles. But the decision was made before the war.
Before 2000?
Yeah, before 2022.
So you already was expanding?
Yes, we were expanding. But as Peter said, those are the investments also for the future. So you have to be sure that you have something to do in those factories after this status goes by. And that's why we do have also the development for the new vehicles, which is going on.
It's an interesting topic because in the West we are not under a war economy. We are under a typical traditional capitalist principles of economy, which means we need to make a profit. When we lose money, we have to let people go and reduce activity. So that is the principles under which we need to work with our customers to find solutions now and also in the long term. So that element of what comes next is extremely important. Now we build factories, many factories, and we upscale many times. But how will that look like in 1 year, 5 year, 10 year? Nobody knows. So there's always a risk involved, of course, when you do business. Yeah.
To be honest, Harri, I was like 5 years ago with nowadays Chod of Estonia. He was battalion commander and I was operation ops guy. So I was riding with him a couple of weeks in the Patria. So really good vehicle. So second question. So your business models is to produce those question yes or no, but with a comment. Business model to produce expensive high-tech models mainly, or your capabilities, visions also to produce cheaper technologies in bigger amounts. So we already a little bit touched those new startups that mainly they focusing on the cheap technologies.
Maybe I can start. In Patria, we do have the Common Armored Vehicle System program going on, which means that we are producing the six-wheelers, 6x6 vehicles, and the basic platform is just the same for every customer. There might be the national variations, but the basic vehicle is about the same, and it's the state-of-art technology. But most of the components which are used are so-called COTS components of the cells, which means that we are using quite cheap components to keep the price of the vehicle in the reasonable level. And we have now the members on the COVS program. There are Sweden, Finland, Latvia, and also Germany has joined. And hopefully Lithuania in the future.
We hope. Okay, thank you. So you didn't think about drones or something to start?
It's an interesting question. We have looked at drones for years. We actually had a team looking at drones maybe 10, 15 years. And our conclusion at that time was that it's not a typical Kongsberg product. Okay. If you look at the Kongsberg portfolio and the competence that sits in the company, that was not a typical Kongsberg product. We are used to long development programs that takes years, complicated systems. We originate from a country with a high cost base, high labor costs, so we need to do expensive products, smart to be competitive on the international market. So drones was not a typical product that we could do, but we use drones in our systems. We are a system integrator. So we use drones as observing platforms, ISR, or even maybe as an effector, but we don't make drones ourselves. Others are better at making drones. So we are maybe a high-cost manufacturer, you might say, because we need to make complicated things cheap, like air defense systems is an expensive solution, and missile systems are expensive solutions, so we are good at that. But we see that in Ukraine, the drone does portray a difficult threat. So we have been able, in a matter of few months, to also develop and deliver to Ukraine a gun-based machine gun, 50 caliber anti-drone system, which works excellent. And the Ukrainians want more. So we're looking at that. So we are able to adapt, and because of competence of doing some things, we can do similar things, maybe cheaper.
And definitely, I agree with you. And we see that missiles and air defense systems and anti-missile systems is also very important in Ukraine.
Yes, yeah.
Essential, I think. Even. Peter?
Well, Hägglunds, just like Patria and Kongsberg, we're also a system integrator. We manufacture tracked vehicles. CV90 is the most popular vehicle for the moment. We've sold it to 10 different countries. And our core is to integrate new technology. So just like Kongsberg, we don't do the drones or many of the subsystems. That's something that we buy and procure. And we welcome when new startups come up with new technologies. We take that to our customer community. We talk to our customers, and is this a good idea to integrate on the CV90 as an example? And we take it from there. So small agile companies is actually good for us to come. They will have a hard time to compete building a combat vehicle. It's a long process to make it, but to make the subsystems and give the capability to the CV90. That's the beauty of these new companies coming up with cheap solution. And when we talk about drones, we've integrated drones, used them to be reconnaissance in front of the vehicles, but we also work very actively on taking drones down with the system, as they are a real threat nowadays. So we work with the technology, but as a system integrator.
From your experience, gentlemen, what is the main needs or requirements from the governments? So what's the process? How it look like? Because I'm not from industry, so it's interesting. So of course, maybe it's case. Every case have different requirements, but like in overall, you can underline something maybe.
Normally, when a customer wants to procure a complex system, they go out and they do market surveys, and then they release an RFQ, and that could take 3 to 6 months to just reply to this one, and then you need to negotiate and come to a contract. So it's quite a lengthy process that our customers have in order to procure and follow all the procurement rules. Now we hear a lot of politicians saying time is of essence. We need to fast deliveries.
The war is ongoing.
The war is ongoing, but the process is still there. So what needs to be done, both from our side and from the customer side, is to look at the process. How can we, still maintaining quality and meeting the timeline, but how could we make the process less complex, and how can we make the deliveries faster? And one of the key things that we say to the customers is that don't come with your national specific requirements. Use the latest build standard there is. What's good for Sweden is probably good enough for Finland as well, as an example. And by doing that and harmonizing requirements, you can come down on lead time, and we are able to meet the demand as best we can. But there's a lot to do in the process to make it.
So messages don't invent a new bicycle because it's already invented.
Yeah. Exactly.
True.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, these systems, they are upgradable. So if you have, in a couple of years, a new need, then we make that into an upgrade. It's part of the nature of these things. That's why when you need the vehicles quickly, don't overcomplicate. Let us build the vehicle, deliver it, and then we do the upgrades after that.
There was an interesting discussion in the second last panel about is it possible to harmonize and standardize the equipment made in Europe versus what we see in the US, which has one or two variants only. And the Major General from the US, he said he did not expect any harmonizing or standardizing of the European industry. But through the methods or maybe the approach Peter alludes to, it might be possible, because it might actually not be a political directive, but it might be a necessity that comes along, that the nation starts to pick other nations' solutions because it's readily available. So it doesn't maybe become a political initiative, but it just kind of evolves perhaps over time.
It's cheaper and faster.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In all cases,
yeah,
it's cheaper.
We have an ongoing program with all-terrain vehicles, the BVS10. It's a procurement with Sweden, Germany, and UK. And we're building a common base platform, and then we add the nation specifics into it. It's one project, but it's 3 customers.
Just like we do in cars.
Yeah, yeah. So I think by using that methodology, even on a more complex product like the CV90, that will really help the customers at the end, because you will not only gain speed in terms of getting fast deliveries, you will also gain the possibility of interchangeability. So a Swedish guy can drive the German vehicle because it's the same interface, it's the same vehicle. So there's a lot to learn, and to do it in a smart way. And don't come with the directives. Work smartly and let us come up with what's a sound industrial solution.
Sometimes it's quite hard to get the customer to understand why the delivery times might be quite long. But in Patria, we have decided that we don't lie to the customers. We are honest. We are telling the real delivery time for the whole bunch, for example, of the vehicles. There have been some tenders where we know that our competitors have given unrealistic delivery times, but they have got quite good points from their delivery times. But that might cause troubles in the customer country afterwards.
There was an interesting conference, the Nordefco conference, which is held every 2 years, where the Nordic leaders comes together, the political leadership, military and industry comes together. And for the first time, we heard that wording. If it is bought in Sweden, it's good enough for us in Denmark. If it is bought in Finland, it is good enough for us in Norway. The military leaders said. But it is not always the military leaders that decide eventually what the nation will buy. There are other elements that comes into play. There's politics, there's funding, financing, parliamentarian decisions, workplaces comes into play. So it will
national industry.
Exactly. Yeah. So it will be interesting to see how this develops forward. But I think it is possible. Yeah. It's about the will to do it. Yeah.
So it's just a will or something else we can like how to boost it, how to make it more, well, we don't need to change to the wartime industry or wartime, but how we can also, that's will, that's one point is very good, but what else we can do to maybe to make better connections or make quicker all this process to go and to get the armies, European armies, to get the vehicles, weapons?
I would say that leadership will be key here, because what's said at the top level in the armies and procurement agencies and politicians has to come down and flow down to the people that then do the actual work and procuring, and understand that we need to adjust and we need to find ways for fast deliveries, because if we follow the processes that we've had for centuries, it doesn't go fast. So we need to adapt to it, and the leadership needs to be flown down.
You know, the defense market is not an open, free market. No. So the principles you learn at school, the free market does not exist in the defense business. You know, the big nations, Germany, France, UK, the big nations, they buy from their own national industries to protect their industry and to generate business in their nation. But smaller nations, Lithuania, Finland, Norway, Sweden, are importers. The majority is imported. So for the smaller nations, it might be a easier way, so to speak, to standardize or harmonize, but to get the big nations along is going to be really hard, or harder. Yeah.
As Peter said, those procurement processes, they might take a long time, even years in some cases. And if someone has a good solution how to shorten that time, we'd be delighted to use those means.
Because also the security precautions and all those, that's
and you have to keep in mind that you have the supplier network on behind the production line, and you have the subcontractors, and you have to get the commitment from there also that they are able to do as fast as you'd like to do it.
Each nation has their procurement process. And, you know, it starts with something and ends up with a contract and delivery, perhaps. But it needs to go through some steps. And each step needs to be documented and needs to be reported, parliament, maybe political leadership. So each nation has a process which takes normally a period of time. But in the process, there are also descriptions how to do things faster. But if you have never done it before, there is a fear to do it because you might lose out on something and you will be blamed if something goes wrong. So there is a question of leadership and, of course, willingness to actually shorten it and use the tools available to you. So it's a tough thing. We're talking about people in large organization, in the civil servant organization, that needs to change and adapt. So it's a process.
The willingness to do the right thing needs to be bigger than the fear of doing something wrong.
That's good. I think we can conclude our discussion with this quote. Okay, thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, thank you ir ačiū mūsų žiūrėjusiems žiūrovams. Susitiksime kitose laidose. Su jumis buvau aš, Nevičius, ir žiūrėjote Lock and Loaded Patrulio bazę. Viso geriausio.